Now, there are those who added the course today. So I'm just going to give a very brief introduction of a figure that I showed last week. And after that, I'm just going to start with the material for today. Anyone who remembers what we did last time? Yin-yang. Pokemon, yin-yang, these are not very IR sounding, but yes, we did those. I was telling you that we're going to look at different aspects of the international system, and I was telling you that we're actually going to look at the evolution of the system. And to do that, everyone has to be able to use Moodle. That's the first thing. So I want to show you how I'm going to use Moodle for the course for a second. I have a presentation right here, historical background to the international system, which I'm going to start today, and it will go on for a while. So we're not going to finish it today. I'll spend 2 or 3 class times on it. And this is to show you that a lot has happened that's affecting what's going on today. Okay? So I want you to take a look at the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint itself is not going to help you. You have to make notes. I already told you that, right? So if you want, you can download it by clicking on it, and you can print it, okay? It's okay to bring it to class, but as I said, don't depend on it. Have it, but don't depend on it. And other than that, what you see on the right is add a new topic. My assistant or I will add new forum topics every other week, so I will ask you to participate, okay? So some of your participation will be from the discussions in class, and some of them will be from the Moodle discussions. And how am I going to grade it? Well, I'm actually going to be in the discussion. I will follow the discussion, and as you discuss, whatever you say, it might be right or wrong, I don't care. I want you to be in there, I want you to participate, okay? Another thing is, the professors, I said this in my other class too, the professors see if you get on Moodle, if you log on to Moodle. So know that we see your activities at Moodle. That means get in, log in, okay? Be there. Show me that you are interested, show me that you want to participate, and you're going to be graded accordingly. Guys, every week there will be something there. So before class, this might actually be an hour before class, or a day, or a few days before class. I want you to check this, okay? So anything related to the class, you're going to have it here. Now, let me just download it for the sake of demonstration. Okay, this is actually what I showed you in the introduction to the course. This was it, and you told me that this looks like either Pokemon or yin-yang, and I agreed, and I said, well, it's both. So you have, in one part of this whole thing that we're doing, you have the economic system, and in the other, you have the political system. And in the middle, the main unit was the state at once, but not really anymore. There are other actors in the international system at this day and age, right? So we are going to look at how the state evolved, and we are going to look at other actors than the state, but our focus will be, okay, how did we get here? Okay, that's what the course is trying to achieve, and that's something that we discussed last time. There were 3 things that I told you that we're going to mention starting from today, and those are economic development. We are going to look at economic development, and we're going to look at state building and military revolution. Now, I argued to you that there is a mutual relationship between all these three. So that means we're looking at a complex international system, and in this international system, we're going to focus on the evolution of the unit, state, and the system. So I argued to you that the system will affect the unit, but also the unit will shape and affect the system. Okay, so there will be a mutual relationship between the system and the state. And I already told you that. Some people believe that there's nothing as the system. So my course as a whole, the international system course, doesn't really make sense to some. But what I'm trying to do in the course, and what you need to keep in mind throughout the semester, is we're not assuming there is a system. We're just assuming that there's this imaginary thing that affects states' behaviors, and not only states, but also international organizations. What else? What else is in the international realm? International law. What else? Are you, as an actor, are you in international realm? Yes, okay, did I said, yes I am. So individuals are definitely part of this whole system. So we're not arguing that the state is the only actor. We're actually arguing that there are several different actors, but the state has been accepted as the main unit for centuries. So I'm just going to show you how that happened, and as a result, how that is changing, okay? So these are the major concerns of the course. Now today, I'm going to start with the historical background, but I want to remind you, I'm not a historian, and I don't think there's anyone from the history department here. We are either political scientists or international relations people, and the way we look at history is not the same as the historian's way. And how is that? Well, we're not exactly interested in all the details of what the historians are interested in. We're more interested in causal relationships, okay? So what led to what? What are the causal dynamics? That's what we are most interested in. So I want you to just keep that in mind. I'm never going to ask you things like, okay, when was the Roman Empire established? Or when did it collapse? So I'm not asking you those, but I'm asking you, okay, why is the Roman Empire important? Why do I start from the Roman Empire? Any ideas? Why is it relevant to start, to go all the way back to 750 before Christ? Why am I doing this?
It's the first major change in Europe.
Okay, it's an important change because as the Roman Empire develops, it's going to affect so many things. It's going to affect, actually, military revolution. It's going to affect law, and it's going to affect religion, economy, right? As time goes by, the Roman Empire becomes extremely important. Well, one of the interesting things is, there is a civil war. Well, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit for the important years. 27 before Christ, Battle of Actium. Octavius fights against Mark Antony. Anybody who knows who Mark Antony is? Not Jennifer Lopez's ex-husband, no. No. That's not the Mark Antony I'm talking about, but he is Cleopatra's husband. You're right about that. He's someone's husband. So him and Octavius are in a war. There's a civil war going on, 27 before Christ, and we have the end of that war, and Octavius actually proclaims himself the Augustus. That's the first Roman emperor, right? And as a result, well, why is this important? Someone wins a war and says, I am the first emperor. Well, he's going to unify things, right? One of the things that's important about the Roman Empire for us is standardization of legal system in the Roman Empire. Well, we care about that because the international system and the law in international system evolves as a result of the standardization of the legal system, right? That's why we think that the Roman Empire is important. Another thing is, you watched so many movies, right, related to the Roman Empire. What was the thing that you noticed for the military existence of the Roman Empire? What did they have?
Legions.
They had legions. What's a legion? Not related to Pokemon.
Paid soldiers.
Okay. You have mercenaries. You have huge legions. Whereas in the past, fighting is taking place between smaller units of armies, smaller military units. The Roman legions are famous for their strength and organization. Again, look, when we talk about Roman Empire, we're actually talking about organization of things, right? So before, things are not as organized. That's why I start with the Roman Empire. Because if you're going to talk about anything like an international system, we have to talk about how things get to be organized, okay? So the Roman Empire is important because of the politically, because of standardization of law and order, and militarily because of these legions, organization of the military, and economically, it's important for what? Taxation. Well, first, attempts to tax, and also, well, more than taxing, actually, taxation is a very difficult matter, okay? And especially in empires, taxation is very, very difficult. But in terms of economy, Roman Empire is really something that we would like to hear about because of trade. When you have organization of law and political units and military, then you have what? A more organized economy. Just think about this. How is the organization of military important for economy? How does military and economy affect each other? Yeah.
Because in those times, land was the most important economic.
Land is important. You have towns, right? And towns are small. What do you have then? Yes.
Trade wants security.
Trade needs security. Absolutely. Would you like to go to a marketplace if it's not secured? No. Why? You don't want to die. So you want security first, and then once you have security, you're going to start thinking, oh, next thing I want is money, right? So you want wealth. And Roman Empire is important because Roman Empire leads to increase in wealth of the citizens, of its citizens. And it also, it's possible to say that citizens feel like citizens, more or less, because now they have cities. So you don't only have small towns anymore, but you have cities. So this kind of sounds like everything is getting more and more organized, right? As you have more organization, that means you have more rule, more order, and everything seems to be developing. So that's good, right? Well, here's the thing though. Roman Empire splits, right? We all know that there is the western part and then the eastern part. And the eastern part, we know, goes all the way until when? Conquering of the Constantinople, right? But the west part comes to an end much earlier than that. And what happens is, well, you have this unit, an empire, that's kind of ruling things, that's kind of organizing things, and then it's gone, okay? So once it's gone, what do you expect to see? you expect to see a less organized, less centralized system. So one thing about Roman Empire, important thing about Roman Empire for us is it's more or less centralized. And after it collapses, Europe is going to be less organized. Okay, what we know of from our history lessons as feudalism, right? Okay, so far, well, we said that organization of things from three aspects seem to be important: militarily, politically, economically, right? So after the collapse of the Roman Empire, things will change. But luckily, around 1000 after Christ, we have an agricultural revolution. I actually wanted to show you something. Here. Okay, first I have a question. What is the most important unit or tool in agriculture for a society that is not very advanced? You know that? What's the English word for it? A plow, right? I actually want you to see that this simple thing is a hugely important thing in the international system. I know you wouldn't expect it.
But with animals.
But with animals. And luckily, we have animals to use the plow with. And when there are no animals, human beings actually use the plow themselves. Okay? So it's very important to have an evolution, a technological evolution in agriculture, because when you have that, you actually have what? With the plow, you produce more, right? You have more production. Why is more production important? Why do you want to produce more?
To trade and to acquire new.
Okay. To trade. If you don't produce more, if you don't have a surplus, how are you going to trade? So to be able to have something to trade, you actually need to produce more, and you need to have a surplus. And you shouldn't need that surplus so that, you'll be able to sell it. And in return, you're going to buy shoes or whatever you like. In my case, shoes. So the plow is important for the international system because it helps the agricultural revolution. Another thing that's very helpful, actually, is, again, something that you wouldn't easily think of, that is, people start thinking, oh, we observe that if we actually use the same crops on the same land all the time, the production starts becoming problematic after a while. So you start using the land for different crops. You differentiate the crops, right? So you use the method of rotation, crop rotation, three-field crop rotation is another thing. Now guys, throughout this class, I'm going to tell you that everything can be explained through, causal factors, but sometimes there's one thing that affects everything else, and that is luck, okay? Sometimes in the international system and international affairs, luck is also important, okay? And so at that time, we have a warm weather going on in Europe, and that also, other than plow and the three-field crop rotation, you have warm weather, okay? And as a result, you actually have the agricultural revolution, and which means more production, increase in production, increase in trade. So all the negative effects of the collapse of the Roman Empire is turning much better in time, which again leads to a revival of Europe, okay? As you see, I'm giving a lot of detail for you to remember what these items are. I don't expect you to remember all of it, but I want you to picture in your mind what happened after what, okay? So I'm not asking you to memorize these things, but I need you to at least follow what's going on, okay? So when you have more production, you have more wealth. And when you have more wealth, you need more of what?
Security.
You have more security by getting larger militaries. So you're trying to organize your military. When you have a lot of money, what do you do?
Invest and
No, in your daily life. Spend it.
save.
What do you spend it on? PlayStation? Games? Land? You buy land? Not you. Okay. Okay. I was just going to say I want to be a student again. What do you spend? Well, I just told you my secret. I buy shoes. What are those shoes for me? Do I actually need 100 different pairs of shoes? Luxury. Okay. So what we are talking about here is when you have extra wealth, you start wanting luxury items. What's the luxury item of that day? Well, things like silk, maybe? Okay, so several different items become things that you want because you have the money, okay? So extra wealth brings with it a wish to get luxury items. You don't need all those shoes. You don't need 100 different PlayStation games, but you get tired of the ones that you have, and after a while you want another one, okay? So the important thing here is, as you have these wishes, you're going to start moving, right? Because you need those items, you will want to move. You'll want to go to different places and get those items. Now, anybody who heard of Marco Polo? Okay. 1200s. He goes to the Mongolian Khan, Kublai Khan, and he comes back and he tells all about the Chinese innovations and technological sophisticated things that he saw over there. So he travels and he comes back. As he comes back, he brings those luxury items. But that's not the only thing that he brings. After a while, actually in 1300s, 1346, something else comes with those travelers, which is disease. Now, you never thought that disease can be part of international relations, but it is, okay? So sometimes when civilizations meet with each other, clashes can take place, or peace can take place, and sometimes unintended stuff, such as diseases and bugs, take place. And you bring those with you. That's how the Black Plague comes to Europe, okay? Not only Europe, by the way. Chinese and the Mongolians, and then every stop that these travelers make actually meets with Black Plague. So by 1346, you have Black Plague almost everywhere, and a huge part of the population in the world dies as a result of Black Plague. Now, look at the story I'm telling you. Roman Empire made things nicer, and then they collapsed, things became really worse. Then Agricultural Revolution made things nicer, and then after Agricultural Revolution, as the people got wealthier, they started traveling, they started excursions to other parts of the world, they brought Black Plague with them, and they died. And some of them actually went on religious excursions, which are the Crusades. And they were for 200 years in the Holy Land. There were Christian civilizations built. And then these Crusades came to an end. Well, you have the Black Plague. things went bad again. So guys, the point that we should all be taking from all this is there is, of course, you know, the good times and the bad times, and good times and bad times. They come and go. And all throughout these things, what matters is there is a certain evolution of technology and economy and politics, okay? Even something like a disease affects the economy and politics and technology. So after that, late Middle Ages, you have consolidation of first nation states. Which state is the first nation state, consolidated nation state? England. What, usually, if I ask things like first, usually it's England, right? So England and France and then Spain. So these countries will start becoming consolidated. What do I mean by consolidated? We're talking about a switch from the feudal system, a more decentralized system, to a more centralized system of states, okay? Did you think that they were states all the time? No, they were different entities. There were city leagues, there were city-states, there were cities, there were towns, and nation-states are quite new in that sense. I'll get into this more as time goes by, but for now, just imagine that these different families, and when I say states, guys, I'm actually talking about these different dynasties, okay? Different families that are trying to consolidate their power. And as they do, well, here, the 100 Years' War, did it take 100 years? Yes. Did they fight every day? Not really. We don't think so, at least. But they fought for about 100 years, okay? And it was a French dynasty versus English, and the House of Valois and versus the House of Anjou. And the 100 Years' War is quite interesting and important because both the English and the French, as a result of the war, they're fighting for land, right? And they're fighting for who's stronger, who's more powerful, and they consolidate their states. Now, one thing that I'll tell you now, and I'll ask you to remember in the future is, where do you think that the war took place between the French and the English? Whose land? You think?
In France.
In France, why? Most of it takes place, most of the wars in Europe takes place in the French land. Why is that?
Because
It's continental Europe, right? What do you need to do to actually go invade Britain? Is it that easy? You need to have quite a naval power. You need to have ships to be able to do that. Now, is that so easy for a continental power? Not really. I am going to get to this later. We're going to talk about how geography affects the international system and who survives in the international system. And just mark these words, Britain is kind of lucky in the sense that it is located at a place that not many states can actually reach with all their military power, okay? So you have, well, consolidation of these states. Again, when you have consolidation of a state, what do you have? More organization. When you have more organization, politically, you have more economic organization as well. Your production is increasing. Your wealth is increasing. What else? Military? Your military power is also more organized. And what else? You want luxury again. And also, let me ask you something. When you have extra money, is there anyone here who says, well, I haven't seen this part of the world. I'm just going to spend that money for traveling? Yeah? Where did you go so far? Everywhere in Europe. Anywhere else? Are you planning to go anywhere other than Europe? What is the condition to travel somewhere that is different than Europe? It's more difficult. Why? Money, right? It's more expensive to travel. Who do you need the support of? Okay, who do you get the money from?
Father.
Your father. Okay, of course. For students, you need the fathers to give money to travel. What else?
Or mothers.
Or mothers. Yes, why do we say fathers directly? True. Well, maybe my father is more willing to give me money than my mother. That's why. What else can we do? Maybe take a summer job. Do something. Sell your books, old books on the internet. I did that. Okay, so you go, the best thing to do is you go to a higher authority, and that higher authority lends you money, right? That's exactly what they did in 1400s. Portugal financed a lot of excursions to the new land. So Portugal once, and I don't think anyone would say Portugal is a great power now, but at the time, Portugal was quite strong because it had naval power, okay? And let me remind you, from Europe, if you want to go get the luxury items that are in the Far East, you need to actually go. If you want to go from land, you need to actually go a really tough route. What do you have in between after 1400s? Ottoman Empire is established, right? So, and it's strong. There's the Chinese, right? And there are several, there's the Mongols. There are several obstacles to moving to the east from land. So it's not a very good idea to use the land to get the silk you want, or to get the luxury items you want. If you can't go from land, what will you do? And we don't actually have airplanes at the time, right? Okay, so sea is your best option. If you're going to use the sea, then you actually have to have good ships. Now, when I say good ships, I don't mean the ships that we have today. I actually mean this. Can everybody see it? It's a caravel. And a caravel actually is quite primitive, but it can actually go overseas, and that's what matters. Okay? The Portuguese come up with the innovation of a caravel, and that actually makes the Portuguese caravel famous for overseas traveling. And this is important because Portugal becomes more powerful than ever at the time. Now, like I said, sometimes what you do leads to unintended consequences, okay? And the fact that trade expansion takes place will lead to some consequences that you wouldn't think of. For example, you go to Africa and you actually meet the population there, and you actually start bringing the Africans back home and start slave trade. Guys, slave trade doesn't start in the world in 1400s. Actually, the Roman Empire, the Greek culture, Islamic culture, they all have one or another form of capturing people and using them as slaves. But this one is the first institutionalized slave trade, okay? So states actually start with an institutionalized slave trade, and that we trace back to the 1400s, okay? With the caravel and with the Portuguese. And after Portuguese, Who do we know of? Which state do we know of? Spain is also interested in this. Who's the authority? Everybody heard of Isabel, right? Ferdinand, Isabel. So once the higher authority, in your case it's your moms and dads, and in the case of these guys, it's actually the kings and queens that finance these travels, and all of it is to find new routes to the silk, okay? But things, again, go a little weird, and instead of finding, you know, the route to the east, what is found? Americas, right? And when Americas are first found, no one realizes this is a new continent. People actually don't understand first where they came. The nice thing between the expansion to the New World and trade expansion is technological progress. Guys, the Chinese were using the printing press for a very long time. But of course, the West caught up with the printing press much later. Why is printing press important? Why would I write it here in the presentation? Ideas? For ideological purposes. Okay. Why? You did this. Spreading of ideology. Spreading of not only ideology, but also information. What kind of information? Any kind of information. So information is spread, and that's important because before you have people who don't know how to write or read, and with the printing press, you have these people learn how to write and read, and they don't actually have to believe those who claim to have read things. This will become really important for the Reformation, but this is, just think of this as printing press as an important technological innovation, okay? And then, by the way, short break. Doruk, let me know when I have to give a break, okay? Okay, so I was saying, okay, printing press is a huge innovation, and you have another innovation, a very important one for our purposes. By the way, printing press is found by mid-1400s, and patent law is another very important innovation. What's a patent law?
It states that it's yours.
Speak up.
It states that it's yours, the item or taking a patent for it is yours, in your name.
Okay. So I innovate. For professors, I innovate the most comfortable shoes ever, okay? For professors who have to stand up for long hours, I come up with these incredibly chic and comfortable shoes, pair of shoes. And the moment I do, I actually get a patent for it. And the system, the state, and at this day and age, we have an international patent law. But at the time, imagine how important this is. You're home, you innovated something, and the next thing you know is someone else saw what you did, and they actually stole the idea from you. And once the idea is gone, the product that you came up with is actually sold everywhere, and you don't get anything from it. Okay? So companies today are so keen on patent, right? I heard the other day at the conference, I heard that the moment, well, like 5 minutes after the Twin Towers came down, after 9/11 attacks, people actually got every combination of Twin Towers or fall of Twin Towers, collapse of Twin Towers, the web addresses that's related to 9/11 were sold immediately, okay? So at this day and age, you know, in the internet age, you actually try to be the first in everything that's possible. At that age, you make something and someone steals the idea. Now, for the international system, one very important innovation for that reason is the printing press, and the other is the patent law, okay? The fact that now you can own your own product leads to more innovations. When you don't have a patent law, would you feel motivated?
Yeah.
I mean, you can still come up with your innovations, but you don't earn from it, right? So, Magnus, are you saying that you can innovate as much as possible, endlessly, even if you don't get paid for it? Yeah? That's not true for everyone, though, right? Because we actually like to earn for the idea or for the effort. So, well, at least in the capitalistic world, we usually like to have whatever, you know, to be paid or to be, it doesn't have to be paid, actually, don't get me wrong, to get credit, right? Imagine this, you know, you come up with incredible innovation and people know you for it. You have reputation for it. So that's also another aspect of it. It doesn't have to be a material payback, but also a non-material thing like reputation. As soon as patent law is found, innovations increase. Guys, innovations for us in this course are very important. Imagine I told you that PLAW is important for us, right? Caravelle is important for us. All of these are different technological innovations, and they actually lead to evolution of the system. Let's take a break and come back.